Every night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., my wife got out of bed. It didn't matter what day it was, weekdays, weekends, even on the nights when she had cried herself to sleep. She never said where she was going. She never seemed to notice that I was awake, lying there, watching the clock. And after the third week of this ritual, I stopped believing it was harmless. We had been married for 7 years. Our life together was good. No big fights, no cheating. No dramatic secrets that I knew of. There was just this distance. It's the kind that doesn't announce itself with a loud bang. It's the kind that grows quietly, like a shadow stretching in the late afternoon, until your whole world is a little bit darker and you don't remember when the light started to fade. She used to fall asleep wrapped around my arm, her head on my chest. Now there was always a careful space between us in the bed, an invisible line she never crossed. Still, I trusted her. I truly did, until the pattern became impossible to ignore. 2:17, every single night. The mattress would lift as her weight shifted. The bedroom air would suddenly turn cold as the covers were pulled back, and she would be gone. At first, I told myself it was just insomnia. Then I thought maybe it's stress from work. Or maybe she just needed space, and this was her quiet way of taking it. But one night, curiosity finally won the battle against reason. I decided to stay fully awake. I lay there, eyes closed, breathing slow, and even faking sleep. At 2:16, I felt the familiar shift in the mattress. My heart started to beat a little faster. At exactly 2:17, she stood up. I heard the bedroom door click softly open, then shut, and then nothing. Absolute silence. I strained my ears, listening for footsteps down the hall, for a light switch to flick on, for the sound of the front door opening, but there was just silence. An unnerving, heavy quiet. The next morning I tried to be casual about it. As she was making coffee, I asked, "Did you sleep okay?" She froze, just for half a second, her hand hovering over the coffee machine. "Yeah," she said, "a little too fast, a little too bright." Slept like a rock. That half-second hesitation, that tiny crack in her composure, stayed with me all day. It replayed in my mind. So that night, after she fell asleep, I started my own investigation. I checked the living room untouched. The couch cushions were perfect, the remote right where I'd left it. The kitchen was spotless, no crumbs, no used glasses. I checked the front door, still locked and bolted from the inside. She wasn't leaving the house. But then I noticed something. The hallway bathroom light switch felt warm to the touch. The light wasn't on, it was just warm. Like it had been on for a while and was just recently turned off. My mind started filling in the gaps with the worst possible scenarios. This is how affairs begin, I thought. Secrets don't ask for permission, they just move in. I started imagining her tiptoeing down the hall, phone in hand. I pictured texts being deleted, calls taken in hushed whispers while I slept. I imagined this entire other life she was living, a life I wasn't part of anymore. And the worst part? The absolute worst part was that during the day she was becoming kinder, more attentive. She'd bring me coffee, ask about my day, touch my arm as she walked past. It felt like guilt dressed up as love, and it was tearing me apart. On the 29th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I decided to follow her. I lay in bed, heart pounding against my ribs, waiting. 2:17. She got up. She slipped out of the room. I gave her a few seconds, then I eased myself out of bed, my feet silent on the floorboards. She was already at the end of the hallway. She didn't hear me. I watched as she opened the bathroom door. And then I heard the soft click of the lock. She locked it behind her. I stood there in the dark hallway, my own reflection a faint ghost in the window. My heart was racing. I pressed my ear to the cool wood of the door, listening. There were no phone sounds. No hushed conversation, no crying, just soft, steady breathing. And something else, a faint, rhythmic clicking sound. A tiny, intentional noise, over and over again. The next day was agony. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't eat. The mystery was consuming me. When she went out to run errands, I did something I never thought I would do. I violated her privacy. I went into the bathroom. I knew where she kept the key for the lock, a tiny thing on the top of the door frame. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the small cabinet under the sink. It was filled with cleaning supplies, extra towels, the usual stuff. But behind a bottle of bleach tucked way in the back was a small wooden box. It wasn't fancy, just a simple, unvarnished pine box. My breath caught in my throat. I lifted it out. It was heavier than it looked. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, ultrasound images, hospital wristbands with her name on them, and at the very bottom a folded letter. My name was written on the outside in her familiar handwriting. With trembling fingers, I unfolded it. The first line hit me like a physical blow. It said, "I couldn't tell you, because I didn't survive losing them the first time. And I couldn't watch you lose them too." I sank to the cold tile floor. I sat there, the letter in my hand, and read everything, and finally I understood. 3 years ago, she had a miscarriage. It was late in the pregnancy. I was away on a work trip, a big project I couldn't get out of. She had called me, said there was a scare, but that everything was fine. She told me the doctor said to rest. It wasn't just a scare, it was over. She lost our baby. Alone, in a cold hospital room. And the time they told her, the time they confirmed there was no longer a heartbeat, was 2:17 a.m. Every night for all this time she came here. To the bathroom, the only place she could be completely alone. She'd open this box, look at the photos, hold the wristbands, and just remember, she would grieve, silently, all by herself, because she thought love meant protecting me from her pain. She thought her sorrow was a burden I shouldn't have to carry. That night, everything was different. I lay in bed, but my eyes were wide open. When the clock hit 2:17, she began to move, just as she always did. But this time, as she stood up, I reached out and took her hand. She froze, and in the faint moonlight, I could see the look of pure terror on her face. She thought she'd been caught. "I know," I said softly. "That's all it took." She broke. It wasn't loud or dramatic. She just collapsed into me, her body shaking with silent sobs that had been held back for years. All that silence, all that distance finally had a voice. And it was pure, unadulterated grief. We didn't fix everything that night. You can't heal 3 years of hidden pain in a few hours, but we stopped hiding. She stopped leaving the bed alone. And I learned something critically important. Love doesn't just disappear. Sometimes it just goes quiet because it's hurting too much to make a sound. Sometimes the scariest secrets aren't betrayals. They're wounds someone is trying to carry all by themselves, to protect you. If this story stayed with you, you're not alone. And if you know someone who has gone quiet, maybe they aren't either. Thank you for listening.